Michio unexpectedly discovered that for just 400,000 NAR, he could purchase a girl of stunning beauty. Her sweet voice made his heart race, and he felt as if he had found a new reason to live. That reason was to save money and buy her, to establish a lavish harem in this new world. Looking back at his arrival in this world, Michio had been somewhat confused. He remembered opening an online game, and suddenly, without warning, he found himself in a stable. Here, he received a newbie bonus, a greatsword called Durandal, with 5 times the attack power, and a powerful effect of interrupting spells. In addition, he discovered a ring that enhanced attack power, and casually put on a pair of grass sandals he found on the ground. Seeing the thief class appear suddenly, Michio felt a little helpless. Though he didn't understand why the game felt so real, he decided to go with the flow. At that moment, the village was attacked by thieves, and Michio decided to grab the sword and rush over. Thanks to the artifact's enhancement, he easily defeated all the thieves, becoming the hero who saved the village. Although the village chief was grateful, Michio began to realize that he had not yet found a way to exit the game. He suddenly felt something was wrong. This feeling of reality, could it really be from a game? If this wasn't a game, it meant the thieves he had just killed weren't game characters, but actual living people. After a brief panic, Michio accepted the reality in front of him. At this point, the village chief captured a thief, and replaced Michio's confiscated thief's scarf. According to the village's rules, the thief was immediately branded a slave, and he would be sold, with half of the proceeds going to Michio as compensation. The next day, accompanied by the village chief, Michio received the bounty for the thieves, and sold the thief to a slave trader. Since the thief was in his prime, the slave trader offered 30,000 NAR for him. After giving half of the money to the village chief, Michio earned some money, but he didn't know how to spend it. At that moment, the slave trader called him back, and bluntly proposed the idea of buying slaves. Michio had never considered buying slaves, but at that moment, a slave girl serving tea piqued his interest. Her angelic face, combined with a devilish figure, made Michio's heart race. The slave trader noticed Michio's gaze, and introduced her. This slave was named Roxanne, the most recommended star in the shop. She not only had decent combat ability, but also a gentle and submissive personality, and most importantly, her life was bound to her master, so Michio didn't have to worry about betrayal. However, despite Roxanne's impressive qualities, her price was jaw-droppingly high. Even with the discount from the slave trader, Michio still needed to pay 420,000 NAR, which was a huge burden for him. To buy Roxanne, Michio decided to raise 400,000 NAR in 5 days, including the bounty he received from killing the thieves. He only needed 70,000 NAR more. After careful consideration, Michio saw only 2 ways to make money. One was to keep killing thieves, to earn high bounties. The other was to try his luck in a labyrinth. Killing thieves would attract hatred, so he decided to try the labyrinth first. Although his level wasn't high, with the dragon-slaying sword in hand, and the magical sandals on his feet, he felt that all problems could be solved easily. Soon, Michio arrived at the first floor of the labyrinth. After observing his surroundings, the system suddenly popped up a prompt. He opened the system and saw that he had gained the explorer profession. He instantly recalled that the thief class had appeared because he took the sandals, so the explorer class was likely generated automatically when he entered the labyrinth. Each profession provided special skills, so Michio decided to check out the explorer skills. One skill shortened the time to switch items, which he could understand. Another skill, labyrinth movement, caught Michio's interest. He mentally said, "Return to the entrance," and sure enough, he instantly returned to the labyrinth's starting point. He then tried to teleport outside the labyrinth, but he underestimated the system's mischievousness. It turned out that the labyrinth movement skill could only be used inside the labyrinth. After a painful lesson, Michio began his exploration of the labyrinth's first floor. Using the system's identification skill, he found the monster in front of him was a level 1 needle tree. Thanks to various bonuses, this was a piece of cake for him. After defeating the tree demon, Michio picked up the dropped materials, since they could be sold. After several hours of effort, he finally reached the place that bought materials, and sold 20 branches for 200 gold coins, at a rate of 100 per hour. He estimated it would take him 700 hours to reach the 70,000 goal. Thinking of this, Michio decided to wake up early and work tomorrow. Gradually, Michio realized he was becoming more and more like an ordinary villager, as if his life of chopping wood wasn't any different. As time passed, he began to realize the seriousness of the situation. Michio's villager level had reached level 5, but he didn't feel much joy. At this pace, even if he fought monsters non-stop for 24 hours, it would take a month to gather 70,000 gold, not to mention his limited stamina. Just as he was considering whether to venture into more dangerous floors, an unexpected event made him pause. He seemed to have triggered a special mechanism, and seeing the faint glow and the hidden level's rich rewards, Michio hurried forward. However, when he entered, he was greatly disappointed. The faint light turned out to be just a broken sword, and then the door suddenly closed, and a strange sound echoed through the air. He instinctively turned around, only to find a group of old friends. But this wasn't a treasure room. It was a level filled with monsters, and clearly, he could only leave after clearing all the enemies. Faced with this situation, Michio could only grit his teeth and continue fighting. From initially struggling for survival to now handling it with ease, he had become accustomed to this rhythm. After countless battles against the tree demons, the fight finally came to an end. It wasn't because Michio was particularly strong, but rather because the artifact he wielded had an extremely powerful lifesteal effect, though the key factor was whether his stamina could hold out. Looking at the pile of tree demon materials in his bag, Michio decided to end the fight early for the day. Just as he was preparing to rest, a commotion caught his attention. After inquiring, he learned that a thief had been killed, and the cause was his high bounty. Upon hearing this, Michio was momentarily stunned. Thinking of his own life or death battles in the labyrinth, and the distant 70,000 gold coins he hoped to earn, a sudden thought crossed his mind. He decided not to rely on selling labyrinth materials for money anymore, but to hunt thieves instead. earning quick income through bounties. The first step in hunting thieves was to track them down. So, Michio went to the bustling market, but despite having identification skills, he couldn't find any trace of the thieves. He remembered the old man from the starting village had mentioned that there were brothels hidden in the alleys of the city. So that night, Michio ventured to this area. He carefully navigated through the red light district when a burly man walked past. Seeing the familiar bald head, Michio instinctively used his identification skill. Following the man, Michio arrived at a secluded alley where a group of thieves had gathered. He didn't act rashly, because with his current strength, a direct confrontation would be self-defeating. A few hours later, only one thief remained. Michio took the chance to get close and found the thief. He proposed that if the thief could introduce him to their boss, he would sell him the high-quality gear he was carrying for a very low price. The thief was clearly very cooperative, enthusiastically inviting Michio to come inside and discuss further. In a playful atmosphere of catch and release, the two quickly arrived at a house. However, just as Michio was about to start the transaction, the thief revealed his fangs, saying it was too late to regret, and no one would know if they fought inside this house. Michio seemed unaware that the boss here had died days ago, and the thief's scarf that Michio had was the boss's remains. With that scarf, Michio even had a chance to become the new boss. As the thief finished speaking, he suddenly gasped in surprise, and without hesitation, Michio threw the scarf toward the candle. In just a few seconds, the roles of hunter and prey were completely reversed. This was a trap set by Michio. After all, the boss had already been killed by him. In the quiet of the night, Michio prepared to continue hunting thieves, covering them with a thin blanket before silently eliminating them. And so, he killed several thieves. The next day, Michio received several bounties for the thieves' deaths, and he smiled happily. With his previous savings, he had surpassed 420,000 NAR. Next, Michio went to the trading location, and the slave trader hadn't lied to him. Roxanne was standing by his side as promised. After signing the master-slave contract, Michio's life was about to change dramatically. He returned his single room, and switched to a double room. Seeing Roxanne's slightly nervous expression, Michio smiled and invited her to sit beside him. Thinking that everything should progress gradually, he reached out to touch her ear. However, this simple act made Michio feel an addictive sensation. Calm down, calm down. First impressions are the most important, he silently reminded himself. However, he suddenly realized that the double room he had requested only had one bed. Roxanne was stunned. Wasn't this arranged by her master? At that moment, Michio finally understood why Roxanne was nervous, so he decided to be open and honest, telling her that he came from a faraway place and wasn't familiar with the customs here, hoping she could understand. From that moment on, the two of them would be companions, venturing into the labyrinth together. As a gift for their meeting, Michio gave Roxanne a pair of epic-grade sandals, which, although a bit large, she could still manage to wear. Seeing Roxanne still mechanically expressing her thanks, Michio's heart moved, and he hugged her, saying, "From now on, you're mine." Whatever she wanted, he would satisfy without hesitation. Seeing no resistance from Roxanne, the two began their pleasant shopping journey. Roxanne mentioned wanting a shield, and he agreed without hesitation. Then she also wanted some clothes, and not only did he fulfill her request, but he also gave her 2 sets of intimate apparel, along with some daily necessities. One of these items was a bottle of olive oil. Roxanne explained that it was essential for maintaining weapons. Soon, night quietly fell. Seeing Roxanne quietly sitting on the floor, motionless, Michio finally understood that in this slave system, only the master was allowed on the bed. However, Michio clearly didn't care about these rules. He directly pulled Roxanne into his arms, and to ease her tension, Michio began his gradual attack, starting with rubbing each other's backs, then washing her hair. Roxanne's mental defenses gradually crumbled.